About a decade ago, I happened to catch a radio interview with a young Black woman named Kayla Vinson, who was talking about her middle and high school experience. Despite being a straight A student in the middle school, Kayla was overlooked when the high school invited high achieving students to apply for an AP history class. Her mom complained and got her in, but the experience became part of a pattern that lasted throughout her high school years. For example, she was in an advanced math track with the same 20 students every year, but whenever the class was allowed to self-select into small groups, nobody ever asked her to work with them. Then, when college admissions letters started coming in, many fellow students couldn't believe that she had gotten into Harvard and Yale. Wait, you got into Yale? They'd say. Which was interesting, she reflected, to have people who had been taking the hardest classes in the school with me for 4 years. It was almost like, what did you think I was doing the last 4 years? At one point, she observed, in a large degree, I think I was just invisible in some of those classes. Let it not be said that we live in a post-racial era. Now, of course, Kayla was one of the lucky ones, lucky enough to have the support at home and from a good guidance counsel and the personal strength and extra intelligence to achieve despite the racial stereotypes that people laid on her. There are many others who do what most of us would do, succumb to the world's expectations of them. There are many whose invisibility goes unchallenged and whose worth goes unremarked, and who come to believe in that invisibility and worthlessness themselves. Mary might have been one of those ones, I think. Just a young peasant girl, a nobody really, engaged to be married to the local carpenter and pass her life without notice in the hinterlands of a small colonized country in the Middle East. Why God would choose such a one, even for a small role in God's work, was an utter mystery to her. You can tell this because even before the angel Gabriel has delivered any news, Mary is bewildered. All he says is, "Greetings, favored one, the Lord is with you." And she is much perplexed, and she ponders what sort of greeting this might be. Favored? Me? I'm just a poor girl in a rich man's world. I'm just a coal miner's kid from Appalachia, or an immigrant farm worker in California, or a Lakota teen from the reservation, or a Black girl from Detroit. I'm one of the invisible ones. Nobody favors me. Nobody even notices me, especially not God. But that's where she's wrong. That's where we're all wrong. Whenever we tell ourselves such a thing, how easily, how mistakenly we take our invisibility to others for invisibility to God. The miracle of this moment is not just the impossibility of a virgin birth, or even that this inconsequential life will become the vessel through whom God becomes human. The miracle is that despite her anonymity, despite her invisibility to others, she is fully seen by God. She's fully beheld, all of her, the inner yearnings, the small bitter hurts, the dreamy musings, the flashes of temper, the forgetfulness and talents and anxieties. Every corner of her spirit caverned away from the indifferent gaze of the world, has been opened like a flower before God and has found love and favor. And it is out of that love that God's creativity springs. It is out of that favor that the holy is born. This part of the miracle, this part of what is extraordinary in Mary's story, is accessible to us as well. With God, there is no anonymous or trivial life. We're known and embraced in a way that we both fear and long to be. That's what God sent Jesus into the world to tell us. Even the darkest corners of our insignificant existence carry beauty and the possibility of creation in God's eyes. And when we encounter that truth, when we take in that we, even we, have found favor in God's sight, then God's love can also be birthed through us, right in the midst of the very lives we're living. Another true radio story I once heard: a woman in her early adulthood is living in New York trying to figure out her life. In her career, she's a dramaturge, someone who helps theaters put on plays. Yet she develops this obsession with Mother Teresa and the life of service that she is living. One day, Mother Teresa comes to New York, and the woman figures out which hotel she's at and goes there in the hopes of meeting her. Sure enough, Mother Teresa's car pulls up and she gets out, and the woman introduces herself and tells Mother Teresa that she wants to come work with her because the work she does is so great. Mother Teresa tells the woman that you can't do this work because it's wonderful work. You can only do this work because you so love the people of Calcutta that you can't be away from them. End quote. The woman realizes that her desire to do something visible and important. And then Mother Teresa asks the woman what she does for a living. She's embarrassed in the way that Mary might have been when Gabriel called her favored. And the woman says the kind of thing that Mary would have said in her shoes. What I do isn't important, she says. I work in a theater and help put on plays, and what use is that? And then Mother Teresa looks at the woman, beholds her as if through the eyes of God, and says, there are so many different kinds of famine in the world. In my country, there's a famine of the body. In this country, there's a famine of the spirit. Stay here and feed your people. Amen.